What's up everyone, my name is Shem and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'm gonna give you 5 tips to up your photo game instantly. So yeah, let's get started. Now before we get started on today's video, make sure to hit that like button, activate those if statements in the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. Now let's get on with the video. Alright, tip number 1 is when you arrive at your point of interest, don't just start taking pictures. Think, what is another way that I can take this picture to make it different than how everyone else is taking this picture? One way to think about this is framing. For example, take this picture of the clock tower at Furman University. Here, I decided to take a step back and bring some foreground out of focus elements with the tree. By thinking about how to frame this picture differently, I just created depth by making the foreground blurry and the background, which is also my subject, in focus. Another way to think about this with human subjects is if you're taking a portrait of someone, don't just take the standard picture of somebody's face and a blurry background. Have your subject interact with their environment as well. Look at this picture of me that was taken at the Battery in Charleston. This is an example of your subject interacting with their environment. Instead of just taking the standard blurry background picture, here I'm leaning on something. Alright, this next tip is kind of going off that last point, and that's to vary your camera angles. Don't just take eye-level panoramic shots of everything that you see. You have 2 legs and 2 arms, and a camera. Make use of it. Your camera doesn't always have to be stuck to your face. Especially if you have those cameras with a flip screen, that makes it even easier to vary your angles. So why should you vary your angles? Believe it or not, camera angles are used in film to evoke feelings. Looking down creates a feeling of vastness, of depth. If you're on top of a mountain, don't just shoot straight ahead looking over the horizon. Angle your camera down. Create some feeling in your picture. Create that feeling of uncertainty for whoever's going to view that picture. The same thing goes for if you want to show how big something is, you don't have to fit it in one flat angled picture. You can take a picture angling up to also show how big something is. Create that feeling of largeness, of depth, of height. Next tip is to turn on the histogram in your camera. Alright guys, so I was editing and then that's when I realized I didn't really go that in depth to what the histogram means. So essentially the histogram is displaying the distribution of light in your image. If your picture is properly exposed, then you should get a graph that looks like this, which is normally distributed or bell-shaped. Now let's up our ISO and see what happens. So you can see the image is very overexposed and you can barely see the graph at all as it's shifted to the right. Then when we bring our ISO down, we see that the distribution of the graph has shifted over to the left, which means that there isn't that much light in the image. So go off of your histogram and don't really go off of how your eyes are interpreting the LCD screen, because to me this looks overexposed and setting the ISO to 100 looks decently exposed, but according to the histogram it's actually underexposed, and the picture that looks overexposed is actually correctly exposed. So how do you turn on your histogram? Go to your menu and go here to your second menu option, then go over to option 3 to your histogram display and click on brightness or RGB, whichever one you prefer, and that's how you get the histogram to display on your LCD screen. Alright, tip number 4 is to turn on the grid in your camera. One of the cringiest things I see on Instagram is uneven horizons, where you see a picture of someone and the line behind them or the horizon is tipped over to the side. So just turn on the grid, align a flat line with your horizon to just make your picture more even. And even if you're shooting on an iPhone, there's an option in your camera settings to turn on a grid. Alright, tip number 5 is to find your own unique editing and shooting style. If you want your work to be noticed, you have to be different. Don't try and copy other people's work. It's okay to be inspired by other people's work, but it's never okay to copy them. For example, I've taken a lot of pictures in Charleston, and if you look at pictures tagged in Charleston on Instagram, nearly all of those pictures are pictures taken during the day. That's the kind of vibe that people give Charleston in their pictures. It's always sunny, the sun is always out, not a cloud in sight, and the streets are lined with golden lights 24/7. A different approach I've taken to make my work stand out in Charleston is I take pictures of Charleston at night. It gives a totally different vibe to the otherwise sunny, perfect, holy city vibes of Charleston. But with these pictures that I've taken, it gives it kind of like a neon, urban, nitty-gritty Gotham City vibe. But as you can see from these two pictures, these are two totally different looks of the same city compared to 99% of the sunny daytime hour pictures of Charleston. So yeah, that is 5 tips on how to improve your photo game instantly. I hope you learned a lot from this video. I hope that the next time you're taking pictures, you'll get to apply some of these tips. And as always, make sure to like the video and also drop a comment down below what you think. Do you like these tutorials? What do you think about them? What's something that you want to learn about next? And subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and tap that notification bell if you're that dedicated. Alright, thanks again for watching. I will see you in the next one. Whoosh.